Eastern Theological College, Johar, Assam. Her specialization is Christian theology. She has been teaching there for quite a long time, and she is a prolific writer, and then she has authored 2 books and many more, of course, other articles and so on. But these 2 books are well received everywhere. The first one is Tribal Theology, reviewing the Naga traditional worldview, and then Tribal Women's Voices in Theological Discourse. So this is the work she has done, and we're very happy that she agreed to moderate this evening session. So now I invite Lovely to take over the rest of the time. Welcome.
Okay, thank you, Wati, for the words of introduction. A very good evening to you all, and a very warm welcome to our Northeast Christian University webinar, Module 4 of COVID-19 Economic and Climate Justice. I would like to once again thank Dr. Wati for the introduction. And yes, 1 or 2 corrections here, because there shouldn't be any misunderstandings. I mean, from any angle, okay? And that is, here it is all right, but in the posters, you know, the brochure sent out earlier, against my name, there was a title professor. And I want to, as he has already clarified, and I want to once again say that it was unintentional, I believe. Dr. Wati so generously, at first he thought that I'm already a professor, so it was sent out like that, and then I have intimated to him, and then he corrected it. Thank you, sir. Another correction is the 2 books that you have mentioned there under my name. The second one is a co-edited book along with Dr. Akani, and therefore I just want to clarify that it is not a single authored book, it is an edited book. So thank you once again. And yes, I want to thank the organizers, the NECU administrators, Dr. Wati Longchar, and the team members for the program, and also for the opportunity given to me to moderate our meeting this evening. Before we go any further, I would like to say a word of prayer. Please join me. Loving and merciful God, we come to your presence with our hearts filled with thanks and gratitude. As we prepare ourselves to go into our meeting, first of all, we want to say thank you for our lives. We want to say thank you for the blessing of life, of families, of friends, of wisdom, of knowledge, Lord, and also for this time especially. We surrender everything into your hands. Bless upon the speakers, especially anoint them with your power. Empower them so that, Lord, they would speak to us meaningfully, Lord, and fruitfully. Bless all the participants. Be with us from the beginning till the end. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, let me now go to the introduction of the speakers and their topics, of course. We have this evening with us 2 very important and fitting persons to speak to us on 2 equally very urgent and relevant topics. Number 1, the first topic is the importance of local food security in time of pandemic, to be presented to us by Ms. Seno Tsuhah. Secondly, the second topic is COVID-19 pandemic and migrant workers, to be presented to us by Reverend Professor Dr. Yiepetso Wezah. Let me say a few things about the 2 of our speakers here. Ms. Seno Tsuhah, a woman committed to the cause of the people in need, especially women. She is a woman of great passion, determination, and courage, I would say, to go out there and make a positive and liberating difference in the lives of the common people. By profession, I am told that she is a community development worker and a school teacher. She is also an honorary member of NEN, that is Northeast Network, a women's rights organization standing for women. Then she is also a member of Millet Network of India and a recipient of several prestigious awards like Sri Shakti Puraskar Award by Government of India, then Governor's Award for Social Work, so also Balipara Foundation Nature Economics Award 2020. A very warm welcome to our Miss Seno Tsuhah. Secondly, we also have Reverend Professor Dr. Yiepetso Wezah. He is a man who has contributed so much to the life of the church in the region and beyond, and also in particular to theological education in the region, in India and beyond. He served as the principal of Baptist Theological College, Futsero, Nagaland from 2008 till 2019, a little over a decade. He now serves the larger Indian Church and Society in and through the Bible Society of India as the Auxiliary Secretary, which is stationed in Dimapur. Besides, he has also contributed several writings in national and international forums. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Secondly, I would also like to give few guidelines to the speakers first before we go into our webinar here. The two speakers are requested to present their talks within within a specified time of 25 to 30 minutes tops, not more than that. If lesser than that, that's fine, but not more than 30 minutes. And so they will present their talks, and after both of them have completed, we will open the time for interactions. So that is it. Then finally, few guidelines for the participants here, the delegates here, all of us, okay? And as usual, this is nothing new, but just a reminder once again. Number one, make your questions or your queries or comments very simple, short, and clear. Don't ask roundabout essay type of questions. Secondly, ask directly from the here where you are, or put up in the chat box. Clearly mention to which of the speakers your comments or questions are directed at. Next, one person may not please exceed more than one question. If very necessary, two questions, because two speakers are there, but not more than that. And then all of the questions, remember, all of your questions or all of the questions that come will not be taken up or addressed. We will see that similar or overlapping questions or queries will be compiled and then presented to the speakers so that they can address them completely, as a whole, as one. So those are some of the things that we have to keep in our mind as we begin. So now may I invite Miss Seno. Is she here now, sir?
Yeah, she's already here.
Okay, then. Miss Seno, please take your time. Yeah, 25 to 30 minutes.
Seno, I have made your co-host.
Okay. Miss Seno.
Are you muted, Seno? We can't hear you.
I just came in.
Okay. Please.
Oh.
Yeah, I just came in. I'm sorry, I have the connection problem again. So am I to speak now?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Possible,
Okay.
yeah.
And can somebody share my screen?
Is it okay?
Yeah. You can put it in the full screen. Okay, thank you. Thank you, and I'm sorry that I'm late again. It's connection problem, and I hope that I will be able to manage till the last slide. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be part of NGO Leadership Training Program. And I'm happy that I'll be speaking on the importance of local food security in times of pandemic. This is one area that I'm passionate about, and I've been working in small ways for the last few years through an organization called Northeast Network, a women's organization, which I am associated for the last 23 years. Can you please go to the next slide? Next slide, please.
it's stuck, I don't know how.
Okay. Can I share the screen from my end?
Yes, I'm not able to. Yeah, you please share from your end because my computer is not. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So I will be speaking on the topic of the importance of local food security. But I was told that participants are mainly from the Northeast region. So I would like to take a very quick overview of the Northeast region. We are 8 states and we are strategically located, sharing international boundary with neighboring countries and thus making our area as one of geopolitically sensitive area, thus making the region as one of the most militarized region. And we have a very long history of conflict, which some of the struggles are still on, which I will not go in detail. A Northeast region is known for biodiversity hotspot. It is one of the 34 biodiversity hotspot of the world, and it houses 67% of biodiversity of our country, India, and it is also culturally very rich. We are more than 200 ethnic groups, and these communities have been sustaining their biodiversity since time immemorial. Now coming to the next slide, it is in this context that the challenging, some of the emerging challenges that is facing us today are many, and it is because of the one reason is because of the capitalist model of development that has swapped the entire region. So some of the points that I want to share here is that the change in development paradigm, the cash economy is overriding food and solidarity economy. There is shrinking of commons, the forest, land, seeds, water resources, and depleting biodiversity. There is climate crisis, feminization of agriculture. And all these have led to food, nutritional, and health insecurity. Thus, going to the next slide, I want to take you all through the larger picture of our country, India, and the food crisis that we face. India is the largest food producer, 25% of global production. And in 2019-2020, the crop year, the country's food grain output, which comprises of wheat, rice, pulses, and coarse cereals, stood at a record of 297.75 million tons. However, when we look at the other side of the slide, the Global Hunger Report, the Index 2020 report, India ranks at 94th out of 117 countries. And our population between 0 to 5 years of age, 14% are undernourished, 37.4 stunting rate, 17.3 wasting rate, and 3.7 mortality rate. If we look at this, there is a big question mark that we have to ponder upon. Why is it so if India is one of the largest food producing countries? Why is it that our global hunger index is ranked at the 13th country? Why is it? Is it because of the wrong policies? Is it because of the inequity? Is it because of the inefficient distribution systems? Is it because of corruption? These are some of the questions we really need to ponder if we want to solve food crisis of our country. Coming to the next slide. COVID-19 pandemic and impact. In 2019 December, when COVID-19 first surfaced in China and later on spread to the other parts of the globe, the world came to a standstill. And all of us have been also affected in different ways. The marginalized people who were affected the most are those people living in the margins. There are livelihood crises amongst the masses, health crisis and food crisis. I would like to touch upon the food crisis a little bit more. According to the World Bank report, the global food prices have gone or risen to 38% during the pandemic. COVID-19 has aggravated food insecurity and has dramatically increased the number of people facing acute food security between 2021. And it has also shown that many countries are suffering from acute food shortage and food crisis. As per the global report of Food Crisis 2021, conflict, pandemic-related climate crisis have sent hunger 5-year higher. So these are some of the reasons, some of the problems that millions of people have faced during this COVID-19. There was food crisis everywhere, and we have also seen in our own region that people rushed to the market areas, people rushed to the shops, grocery shops, wanting to get stock for their families. So there was such a confusion and such a crisis at this point of time, which is still continuing. So the importance of local food security comes in. Why is it important to secure our local food systems? Why do we need to secure our local food systems? Why do we have to prepare? This is the topic that we'll be deliberating further, and I wish to take why food is so important to us. Food, when we look at food, it is not only for our physical sustenance, but food is more than that. Food has spiritual, cultural, social, and political connotations attached to it. Food is sharing, food is bonding, food is celebration. If we look at food, we call food when it is helping our body, when it nourishes our body, when it nourishes our soil, when it nourishes our environment. And thus food is deeply rooted in the environment, besides the spiritual, cultural, social, political connotations that have with it. So I would like to take you all through to the next slide, which talks about a system that is sustainable and that has been sustaining us for centuries. The indigenous communities have been living and have been sustaining the communities till this generation by following a system called agroecology. Agroecology is working with the nature. If the food production is so high, if our country is one of the richest or the largest food producing country, but still there are millions who are facing acute food storage, there is a problem with that kind of system. And I think and I feel that the system, the corporate system, the corporate capture of agriculture is one of the main reason of disaster and main reason of food crisis. So here agroecology is very important if we are to secure food for our communities, if we are to have local food security. Agroecology works with nature, and the system of agroecology is ingrained in the ecological realities, our identity, our knowledge systems, which have social meanings, health, nutrient, and economies. The production practice or harvesting practices are grounded in ecological principles like sustaining the biodiversity. So it is all about, working in harmony with nature. You till the land, you cultivate, you grow, but you don't destroy the land. And this is the system that we need to address the issue of food crisis, that we need to address the issue of securing local food security. It is all about resilience. It is all about, considering or treating the earth well, at the same time, her people and also the living beings in and around it. And all this contributes towards community well-being. And this is the system that we need to really look back within our own communities. I would like to take you to the next slide, which shows about the source of the food that comes from the forest. When we when we say that food is grounded in or deeply rooted in the environment, the sources of food does not only come from farmland. The sources of food doesn't only come from the kitchen garden, but our sources of food are from the forest, are from the water bodies like rivers, lakes, ponds. And here in this slide, I would like to show how forests play a very important role in sourcing food and nutrition for us. That it gives us, plenty of edible, edibles. The figures that you see here is on the small research that we have done in NAN in 2018, a survey on micronutrient-rich species in Nagaland. And here it is the species that we have documented. That is wild edible fruits, 50 of them, wild edible vegetables, 52 of them. I'm sure there are more than that. Edible wild flowers, 3 of them, and then 25 wild edible mushrooms. So why I'm showing this is that if we are to secure our local food, then we have to conserve our forest. It is very important that we take care of our environment, because a large source of our food comes from the forest, comes from the land which is not cultivated, comes from the streams. So my showing this example, showing this slide is to urge you all that if we are to consider, or if we are to have a local food security, then we have to see that our biodiversity is protected. I have put up some few slides which I wanted to share with you all, that the small initiatives that Northeast Network has taken in our effort to strengthen local food and farming systems. So I would like to take through some few work which I will be showing. Seeds are considered to be the core of our food. Seeds are an important part of our farming system. We cannot think of our crops, we cannot think of our food without seeds. So one area that Northeast Network does is that we do encourage our local farming communities to preserve, to save their seeds, to conserve local seed varieties, which also comes along with traditional knowledge. And this is also giving a way to give easy access to good quality and local seeds. It is also a way to realize farmers' rights to food and seed sovereignty. If we look at the world around, the seeds companies, they are intruding in our different pockets of indigenous communities. They are giving their genetic modified GMO seeds to different remote corners of the world, trying to control the whole food system. So it is with that, with that in mind, we are encouraging women farmers, and there are some 10 villages which have community seed banks in the rural areas where we are working, and we really need to think about this in our own field areas when we are talking about local food security. Strengthening millet-based biodiverse farming. This is one area that we are advocating to strengthen agro-biodiversity farming practices. Because nowadays we see that monoculture plantations, giving emphasis on cash crops, is taking control of our landscape. And there is a threat to local food security. So we talk about and we share and we also encourage the farmers to continue doing agro-biodiverse farming and to ensure multiple securities. It also gives food, it gives nutrition, it gives livelihood, it gives fodder to our livestock, and it is ecologically secured. In these times, especially when we are facing climate crisis and also in times of pandemic. So it is important for us to see that people still continue to do ecological farming. They are encouraged, they're also supported, and they are now somehow the small communities where we are working with, they have come to realize the importance of agro-biodiverse farming. And I think this should spread all over. Gender equality amplifying the voices of women. Women play a very important role in providing food, growing food. And thus it is also that our main stakeholders remains women. We build their leadership and agency and rural women, girls, women collectives, self-help groups, farmers groups, to see that they are recognized, that they are also encouraged to continue that the vast knowledge system that they have to nurture, to restore back the dying knowledge and also, the disappearing genetic diversity in our farmlands. Youth engagement, ecology, and biodiversity is a small initiative that we are taking because we feel that it is important to engage young people. There's a disconnect between young people and the ecological issues. They are no more interested. I think we are all to be blamed, and also the education system, which needs to be relooked. So it is with some kind of programs that we bring young people together, urban children to the village, to understand biodiversity, ecology, to understand the local food cultures. So this is one area that we have been doing the last few years, which needs to be strengthened and which needs to be replicated in other parts also. And I hope that people who are participating here will also try to engage young people. And it comes to all the work that we do with strengthening food and farming systems, local farming systems. We emphasize on the sustainability factor, and that is local production. Producing food for own consumption comes first, then local consumption, then local distribution through local markets or exchange or donations. So it is based on these three main themes that we talk about, and we emphasize our communities to strengthen these three themes: local production, local consumption, and local distribution. And we also feel that it is very important to build a network of solidarity. So Northeast Network tries to bring in different farming communities together, create a platform where they exchange knowledge, where they celebrate the biodiversity together, where they also build a voice to resist some of the dangerous things that are coming into the communities. To the last slide, the pathways for building a food sovereign community. I would like to emphasize. Yes? Okay. The pathways for building a food sovereign community. If we want to have a food sovereign community, or if we want to have local food security, we need to safeguard the common resources and retain in the hands of the community the common resources like land, water, forest. These are the foundation and these are the core of our subsistence, of our sustenance. And it is important that we see that all our common resources like land, forest are safeguarded and remains with the community. We need to recognize agroecology as the answer of global crises, whether it is climate change. If the industrial agriculture is contributing to climate crises, then we need to rethink. If the kind of food the corporate agriculture is producing, but still not able to address the issue of poverty and hunger, then we need to rethink. And here agroecology is the answer.
Okay, participants, please
you are muted.
mute yourself.
Seno, you are muted.
Yeah. Seno?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
I was muted by the host. I don't know how it came. So it is important to recognize agroecology as the answer, a sustainable agriculture to secure local food. So it is very important to even like to see and encourage our farmers to cultivate micronutrient-rich and climate-resilient species. I think the issue is that the food may be available in the market. People can buy from the grocery shops, but the kind of food that comes in and floods into the market to the towns and cities are also full of toxins, which is not healthy to one's body, and that is also creating lots of health problems. So it is important to identify some of the crops which will be available in our own local, which will be available in our own local. Am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm hearing my own voice. Sorry. Yeah, so it is important to encourage farmers to grow which are climate resilient species. Nowadays, we face this climate crisis, and there are some crops which can withstand heat. There are some crops which can grow in a very scanty rainfall area. There are some crops which are rain-fed. So we need to identify this, and we need to make sure that the farmers grow or cultivate more on this kind of species. We also need to recognize women's knowledge, their contribution and leadership in combating climate change, poverty, and hunger. They have been playing a very important role in growing food as one of the key stakeholders, growing food and then nurturing the land. And we need to acknowledge and recognize this. So in our own field areas, it is important that we bring in the people, acknowledge their contribution. Acknowledge their contributions. There is a need to strengthen and deepen grassroots research, evidence generation, organizing, and action. And this we can do it in collaboration with some research institutions. But before going to that, in our own local levels, what we can do is we can, with our church members, we can try to understand, map our resources, the available resources, the knowledge systems that are with the people, the kind of agriculture practice which has been sustaining them for many years, which are coping with climate crises. It is important to understand that. It is important to also gather the kind of food crops, the information on the wild edibles available in that forest area. It is important to start with small knowledge gathering, and from there to develop a plan where you can encourage, or we can encourage the communities to emphasize on or to stress upon and to act on. In doing all this, we need policy support, innovations. If one system is not working, then what another method, what can we apply. If there is less rain, if the land is dry, how do we recharge the land? So, like innovations, trainings, and capacity building. And then appropriate technology transfer is very important. There may be technological developments, big machines, but that is not, applicable to small farmers. That is not applicable to the people who lives in a difficult terrain, in a hilly areas. The machines are not meant for the hilly areas. It is too huge. So I think here we need to bring in appropriate technology context-wise, and to make sure that it goes and it is accessible to farmers. There is also a need for capital and credit, market linkages. And all these, the few points which I have shared, I think we can all start in our own areas, work field areas, with our own church members, to start talking about the importance of safeguarding our land, to recognize agroecology if the corporate agriculture or the industrial agriculture is not helping the global crisis of poverty and hunger, to encourage our own farmers to go beyond the farmland to the forest and see what can be sourced as food. So here I would end my talk here. I think I have a little bit, like rushed through, but later on, if there is anything that needs to be clarified or deferred, or can supplement even in the points that I have given. And I thank you all again for your patient hearing. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Seno, for that beautiful presentation. We will come back to you, of course, in the interaction forum. Now we will go to the next speaker. Dr. Yiepetso, please.
Yes, no?
Then exit Seno, the screen sharing.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for this time. I would like to thank our guru, Dr. Wati, and the organizer for inviting me to join this NICU Zoom meeting. I would like to share a few thoughts on the impact of COVID-19 pandemic lockdown on the migrant workers, and then see the church response. May I share my screen?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
I have made you co-host already.
Okay.
Yeah, you can share.
Okay. Okay. I will be giving a very simple talk, and it will be very short also, so that we have more time to discuss. Now, who are the migrant workers? Migrant workers are the workers who work outside of their own home state or country. Oh, country spelling is wrong. They work in different sectors. That is my own understanding of migrant workers. Then the next is migrant workers. Sorry. Are the worst hit group of people in India. No work. They have no work because industries, factories, companies are closed down. Almost all the economic activities shut down. There was no work, no money, and no food to eat. And they have no money to pay house rent. So they were compelled to go back to their respective places, their villages. Now, if you look at the migrant workers, then more than 80% are working in unorganized sectors. Now, when they go home, try to go home, then due to lockdown, public transports were suspended. There was no train, no bus services. So they have to walk hundreds of kilometers on foot. We all see from the social medias. And even though they have some money also, hotels were not open, so they have no way to eat their food also. Then we also see that a few of them died on their way home. So that was a big problem that we see. And then when they reach their places, try to reach their places, then boundaries were also sealed. So they were not allowed to enter their states and villages. Here, even in our own state, also some of the people were not allowed to enter, and so they have to go back to towns again. So that was a big problem for them. So many of them were starving on the street. The travelers and migrant workers were stranded in train stations. Somehow the good-hearted people extended help to them by providing food. NGOs also came forward to provide food to these people. Now here, example in Dimapur, the villages, colonies shut their gates. And so nobody was allowed to go out and nobody was allowed to come in. And so when I interview some of them here in my own place, Dimapur, then they said that we are going to die out of starvation if lockdown continues, because we have no money to eat. And so, and then the people, the rich people, the employers are not coming also, so they don't give us work, so we are going to die. That's what they also share with me. Northeast migrant workers. Now, many of our Northeast migrant workers work in informal sectors, maybe in different works, but not in organized sectors. Most of the ladies work in hotels as waiters, cooks, and in beauty parlors. Then, so they occupy the lowest economic positions in our society. Somehow government arranged a special train called Shramik special train that brought them to their respective places in Northeast India. Some of them came on their own arrangement. For those who stay back in their workplaces, they face racial discrimination. I think we were all angry also by watching the social media. Northeast people were ill-treated. They were denied from buying food kits also from the shop. They were accused of being infected with coronavirus. Other Indians look different eyes. Probably we look like a Chinese, so they suspected us to be like that. And then, so Northeast Indian migrant workers suffer racial discrimination in the first wave of coronavirus. Now, in Nagaland, I'm not very sure about other states, but as I observe or study here in Dimapur, most of them did not go back to their previous work in the cities. They stay back here. Many of them are not doing anything. They're just staying here. I also, some of them work in, work as run a barber shop and home rich things. So they do something, but most of them are not doing anything. they're just staying home. Construction works are available actually in Dimapur, but they are not willing to do construction works. Probably they think that it is a very low job. I'm not. Now what we find is that these migrant workers who are not employed now and the youth who have no job may involve in antisocial activities unless we take some preventive measures. So that is a big worry for us. Other workers from other states, migrant workers from other states, they have come back to Nagaland and they are in almost all the construction works. They are engaging in farming of animal husbandry. They are in agriculture activities in Dimapur. And when I interview, many of them are just nearby my house. So I talked to them and then I said the second wave of coronavirus has come, killing many people, and a week lockdown is imposed. And so I asked whether they will go back. They say it is better to die of coronavirus instead of dying out of starvation. That is what they reply. So they are not going back to their place. Now in Nagaland, containment zone in Dimapur, and then statewide lockdown is imposed. So from Kedima to Dimapur Municipal Council, covering 23 areas were declared as a containment zone, and a week lockdown is imposed. Now, most of the economic activities stop again here in the city, Dimapur city. And government allow that economic activities, construction works can be carried on, but government also closed down all the hardware shops. And so there is no work for the construction workers. And when we talk to some of the rich people here in Dimapur, especially those who employ the workers, they said that this is not the time to spend money for developmental works. So there is no work for the migrant workers indeed. And in addition, prices are skyrocketing. Especially those who are dealing essential commodities, are taking advantages and accumulating so much wealth. For example, previously, mustard oil is rupees 100, but now it is increased to 150. So 50 rupees increase from one liter of mustard oil. The price of rice also increased by 150 per bag, that is 50 kgs. So it does not only affect the migrant workers, but it affects all the needy people in India, especially here in Dimapur. I don't know how government is controlling. Now, response from the government. The central government asked the states to utilize disaster management response fund for providing food, healthcare, and shelters. But those who are engaged with the migrant workers, they said that this policy is not translated into actions. And the migrant workers do not have any information about these things. And so National Food Security Act was implemented till November last year. And so the migrant workers and the poor people were provided 5 kgs of rice per month, or and then 1 kg of pulses. So that is actually a good help to the migrant workers and poor people here in India. Then responses from the NGOs and the churches. NGOs and good-hearted persons provided food. Here in Dimapur also, so many people were stranded and they were not able to go home. Many of them had gone home, but many could not go home. And so the NGOs and the churches, they provided food to these migrant workers. So especially in Northeast India, the churches were so gracious to the migrant workers, the suffering people. Churches also organized a counseling group, and they gave counseling to those who were in quarantine centers. They also shared the word of God to the people there, and also not only to our own people, but like in Dimapur train station, they went and preached the gospel to the travelers who were stranded there, and then the migrant workers who were staying there in train station, and also provided them food. I work in Bible Society of India, and so we also distributed Bibles to quarantine centers, and also provided food kits to the most needy people. And so that was the work ministry carried out by the Bible Society of India. Now, action plan. Practical oriented theology versus theoretical oriented theology. I think we are almost all of us are theological educators and then church leaders. So I feel that at this time, we need to focus more on the practical oriented theology. We need to give a practical guidance to the churches, to the leaders of the churches, and help the migrant workers. When I asked Nagaland Baptist Church Council and a few associations whether they have any plans or program for the migrant workers, they said there is no plan or no program for the migrant workers as of now. So these people are now neglected by the churches. That's what I find. Now, most of the business are run by Marawaris in Northeast India, especially here in Dimapur. And so we are always at the mercies of the Marawaris, and our economy is in their hands. And so what I feel is that the churches can be encouraged to give soft loan to committed youth to take up entrepreneurship, to take up business, so that in return, they will be able to help the poor and needy people, because when the money goes to other group, they are not extending any help. It is in their hand and they're not extending any help. So if we help our own people, I think our own people will again help the suffering people, and that will benefit individuals and the churches also. Then Seno was talking about this food security. I'm very happy to hear that. We need to also set up life skill training centers, I think, in Northeast India, so that we can give some basic training to our people, our young people, youth, so that they can stand on their own feet. Now I have a question. What is the role of theological educators and church leaders today in this pandemic? We must give practical guidance, but how is my question. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yiepetso, for that presentation. Now, yes, thank you to both the speakers for your brief, very clear, and very powerful presentations. Now we will move over to the second part, and that is time for interactions. And so we will take some direct questions from the discussants. And time is given.
Some questions are there in the chat box.
Yes, we will take up that one a little later. I have collected them. If anybody wants to ask direct questions, then you may do so.
Let them, we start from the chat box, no problem.
Okay, then. Okay, here's a few questions are here. These questions are directed to Seno. One is with regard to the term wild fruits, because in her presentation she was talking about the wild fruits, and the question is, the word or the term wild has a negative connotation according to the person questioning, and so why call them wild? That was the question put up. Why call them wild when for centuries they have sustained our people? So that is the thing. Then maybe Seno will take up that one first before I read out another. Yeah.
I never take wild as negative. Maybe we have different likings for words and all, but like when it is wild is beautiful. That's what we use in our generation. And I think wild animals, wild plants, which are unattended, they are in the wild, they are in the forest. So I think if it is somehow negative, a negative terminology, we can always use uncultivated food. Uncultivated food. I think that was pointed out by Dr. Wati.
Okay, I think that should do. That's just simple clarification. Secondly, the question is about sustainable eco-farming, which according to your presentation states that it is a threat, threatened today. But the question is, but with the increase of population and migration issues and the landlessness of many people, how far is this sustainable local farming feasible for the large population? Yes.
When I'll first start with the pandemic. When COVID-19 came, people came back to the village. People realized that they don't have other options, but they have to go back and till the land. And I think that realization, one should acknowledge it, that until and unless we grow our own food, then there is no future. And when it comes to population increase and migration, I agree very much to what Mary has said. There is population increase, but if I am to look at the land in our own state, there is enough land for the growing population. And if we go to the eastern side, whether it is Noklak, whether it is Kifri, I see huge mountain ranges which are majestic, but unfortunately which are also shaven because of the I don't really call June cultivation as unsustainable. It is a system which has sustained us for centuries, but I think we need to improve it. So it is all about improving it. And why people are, especially young people, are migrating. It is also because the kind of farming, the kind of the very thought of farming as, very secondary and as something that you don't deserve, which was, when we were small, and I'm sure that it was also uh, shared by your own parents, that you study hard, otherwise you will work like me in the field. That was the word used, very commonly used in our high school days. And that very thought of considering farming as a second-class job, or as a job which is not dignified enough, that attitude, that mentality itself is the problem. And I think we have to change that, and we have to make farming attractive, and we also have to bring in technology into the farming, because whether we talk about the importance of farming and all, it is a very tedious job. I do speak and encourages farmers, women, men, young boys, the importance of farming. But when I myself, during this last 1 year, have tried my maximum time in the farmland, I know how difficult it is. So I think we have to bring in technology. We have to make sure that it is an attractive profession, and it is also something that can blend together with the traditional knowledge and also the scientific methods, where it can come and blend together without disturbing the land. I think Mary has also brought in the issue of landlessness. And that is one question we need to really ask ourselves. When we look at our foreparents' time, it is an agrarian society. Now, if we look in our own communities, the richer are becoming richer, the poorer are becoming poorer. This gap, why it has come to this level, we need to question again, because that inequality in the community, that has made the people, almost making the people landless. Otherwise, if I can, confidently say that in Naga society, everybody has some kind of land, if not big plots of land. We have land, but now people are becoming the tribal society. People are becoming landless, and this is the elite, the rich people are coming and buying from the poorer families. And I think the whole question about the basic needs of the people, the health, the education, I think we need to ponder upon the wider issues. I am not sure whether I have answered to Mary's question, but those are some of my thoughts.
Yes, thank you. Then there are two more questions. There are two more questions to Seno here as of now. Are there workable strategies that have worked to encourage the youth to embrace this farming, and not just as a source of food, but as a source of living? That's the first. Second, what is the perception of GMO, genetically modified, foods, and then farming in India?
To encourage young people, I think now the people have become very conscious about what type of food they eat, they bring to their plates, they bring to the kitchen. People are becoming health conscious. And it is here where we can encourage our young people to take up farming, which is organic, which is without any scientific, not scientific, chemical inputs, which is good for health. I think we need to create that kind of niche market, and I'm sure that one can start growing, and also one can earn a livelihood from farming. I have seen a couple of young people in Nagaland itself also who are doing well farming, and also taking up that as an enterprise. Farming, and then value addition to it, and then selling it. So I think it is workable if we have means and will to do it. I'm sure that some young people can take up this weekend, and we need to encourage them. Because if a young person who has done his degrees and who says that I'm going back to the village and I'm starting farming, I'm sure that the whole, not only the family, immediate family, but also the extended family will say, oh, that's the wrong choice you have made. You have to take up some government jobs. You have to do this job. This is not for you, educated people. I think that mentality has to go. And I'm sure that there is potential. I've seen like in other parts of the country also, young people taking up farming and doing very well. We have to have that confidence and we have to encourage young people. Now, when it comes to GMO seeds, I think the whole concept of this genetically modified seeds. And today, as the audience are all from the church, I would like to bring in the verse from Genesis 1:29, which says that God has given us the seeds for our food. And when God has made, why do we need engineering to change those genes and to make and to mix and to create new seeds and to oppress people who are nurturing the seeds which were given by and which are given by God? That whole question we have to raise, because with GMO seeds, it doesn't come in one single package. It comes with this fertilizer, it comes with this technical inputs, it comes with that, and naturally of those companies discourage regenerating by itself, which is not growing by the natural world, which needs external inputs. I think we have to resist.
Okay, is that it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay,
Yeah,
we will
I
now
think
move.
that is it. And
Okay, we'll come back to you again, if time permits. And then now a few questions.
Can I ask one question to Seno?
Okay, sure.
Seno, thank you very much for your very well-grounded presentation, which takes me to my village when I was young. And it is very informative, very insightful, and I learn a lot from your presentation. One of your contextual analysis says that there is a paradigm shift where we have started seeing the systems from cash economy from cash economy overriding food and solidarity economy. That is very much true, and you have analyzed critically that how important this local food security has to revive and re-strengthen by carrying out different activities, as you take an example of the NAN where you are working. But my question to you is that what is your understanding on what the church's council or the church's organization or the community culture and the traditional or the values that we have among the tribal society is affecting our common people, especially the poor and the marginalized, with specific reference to the food security, what role they have been playing, and then what are some of the issues that you have identified that these churches and the culture plays a very important role to reverse the paradigm shift that has been taken place in Nagaland or in the Northeast.
thank you for your question. In fact, you will all be knowing more than what I do, but from a lay perspective, I think the church can play a very important role in reviving, in restoring back the ecological spaces that we used to enjoy. I mean, more, like the kind of the diversity, the kind of, the biodiversity that we used to have. I think, the church, what I see is that they have also been, it's very limited. I'm sharing more from, my immediate church and the Nagaland perspective. But I think the church can do much more than what it is doing now. First, if we are to be the stewards of God's creation, the kind of development projects that we are encouraging our church members, is it in alignment with God's creation? That is something that we need to question. If we are promoting a plantation, clearing the whole mountain and then promoting one plantation, is that in alignment with God's creation? That we have to see, because I think a lot of initiatives are also taken by the church in order to improve the economic status of the church members, the members of the communities, which is very important. But we have to really pay attention. What kind of development are we pushing? I'm saying this again and again, and people say that, oh, you want us to go back to those days which are underdeveloped, and you want to push us back to traditional way of living and very primitive. But I'm telling them and I'm sharing them that there are many ways that we can improve our economic activities, our economic status, which we need to calculate that the final, the evaluation of the economic gains should be a long term. If I get this much from this plantation, what is it doing to Mother Earth? Is it, helping the microorganisms beneath the ground to grow, or is it killing some of them? I think, small questions, but I think we all need to look back on these things, because the current trend is that, okay, for economic distinct, coffee plantation, rubber plantation, cardamom plantation, right? We need cash, definitely. It's cash economy era. But here I'm talking about food first. So when we are talking about food first, securing one's own food, I tell you the example of, last year during the pandemic, March, there was, the lockdown was announced, and it was like that it didn't really open up. And I think, people who suffered, the farmers who suffered most are those people who have huge plantations, who the plum seasons were there. It is perishable, but they cannot transport it. So it is rotting down in the villages. So I think, you can do this kind of plantations. You can bring in, money, but along with that, not only thinking of, sending straight to the market, but we also have to capacitate the people on value addition, processing, and I think those are some of the areas where the church needs to holistically look at, to see that the kind of economic activities that the church is encouraging its members to take up needs to be in alignment with God's creation, the design of God's creation. And this is very important, and the church can play an important role in this. Besides that, I think, what I have also observed is that I think I have heard that in some churches, when they celebrate Jubilee, they take a commitment, they make a pledge to take care of a mountain range, the forest, which used to be the water catchment, which is a house to flora and fauna. So I think slowly we have to also start, looking beyond the celebration as one event, but to mark that celebration, to take care of God's creation. I find it very beautiful, and I think the churches can take a pledge or made a commitment to take care of God's creation in this kind of, important special events. And of course, the church can do a lot. And for me, when I go to the church platforms to talk about farming and sustainable livelihood, I take the story of Genesis and talk about biodiversity and talk about the seeds. And the church takes that, accepts that well, wherever I have gone. And I think we have to start from the scratch, and we can do lots, because whatever is said in the church platform, is always accepted well by its members. And I have great faith in you all. I must have gone around the bush, but that's what
Thank you.
I can share.
Thank you, Seno, yeah, for clarifying and responding to those important questions. Now, let us please go to Dr. Yiepetso's questions directed at Dr. Yiepetso. Let me, there are several questions, so many questions are coming up, but due to the constraints of time, and then, we may not be able to entertain or address all of them. Few questions we will pick up. For example, Dr. Yiepetso, will you be able to respond to some of these questions, please? How feasible is it for the church to give soft loans? Because you mentioned about soft loans, the church. Then why not projects instead of loans? That's the first question. Secondly, suggest tactical steps to reach out to the migrant workers with relief measures. Those two, please address them first.
Thank you so much for the questions. I want to cite one example. When I was in Futero, Jefferson Mission Center Church gave loan to some of the young committed people, encouraging them to take up some business. And so the church gave a loan to some of the youths, and then they started running shops. And that was a good help to the youth. And then they also repaid the loan. And they were also faithful in giving tithe to the church. And they also work harder. And so what I find is that many of our youths are going out of our state. And so if the church can give a soft loan without interest, that will and then encourage them, fund them ways to run business. I think that will help our youth and also our churches, our society also. That's what I feel. Yeah. And
okay, what about suggest tactical steps to reach out to migrant workers with relief measures?
Well, this the migrant workers here, like in Dimapur, they were stranded here and there, and so we find very difficult to locate them. But in their own respective areas, the churches are there, and so in their own respective areas, the churches extend that help because they do not have anything to eat, no work to earn money. So in their own locality, the churches extend that help to them. So it was a very good thing that the church did. Not only the church, but the individuals also extended help. And then the NGOs also did like that. And then, for example, like Bible Society of India, we also distributed food kits to the migrant workers and needy people through the churches. We didn't do anything on, we didn't reach them by ourselves, but we gave to the churches because they identify who are really suffering. And so we help them through the churches.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Another question here that I see, and then I want you to respond on behalf of the, those who have put up the question. At the backdrop of this COVID-19 situation that has pushed many to unemployment, the question is, who should take care or who should take the initiative of this work culture thing to revive the work culture? That is very important. But the question is that the critique is that the argument is that the church alone may be helpless, and therefore state governments need to seriously consider this. That is the opinion shared. What is your response to that?
Yeah. It should be a collective response. Church alone cannot do, NGOs cannot do, but the government, church, and then different NGOs can come together and then work out together. But if they can give more responsibility to the church can do much better in the context of Northeast India, because the church is more powerful and more sincere in carrying out its responsibilities also. But it should be a collective effort.
Okay, thank you so much. Shall we go back to Seno? Also, a few questions are there that have cropped up for Seno to respond. Dr. Parho, and then another one from Ajoni. I think their questions are interconnected, interlinked, and therefore I want you, Seno, to please address about this PDS, MG, and REGS and all with regard to whether there is any, Ajoni's question was in relation connection to Dr. Parro's question, is there any or are there any systematic scientific studies on them? Because this PDS and then there's MG and REGS, those issues. Please. Yeah, you see that question, right?
Yeah, I am not aware of the journals on PDS and MG and REGS so far, but I'm sure there will be some studies. But from the experience and from the field visits, whether it is in Andhra Pradesh or whether it is in Tamil Nadu or whether it is in Sikkim, I have come across people saying that, okay, PDS have come, people get rice in 2 rupees, and they're very clever. They have made farmers to rely on PDS, and they have given the land to the corporates. I mean, that's the kind of feedback people have given. And also, when it comes to an MG and Rega, we have seen in our villages, like in the villages in the peripheral of the place where I live, that people have really, like, the work culture has somehow weakened, because like it's kind of like an easy money that has come in. And I think the whole design of MG and Rega, which was first designed in Madhya Pradesh, may not have really like worked well in our region or in different parts. I mean, in some parts of the country. The context where it was designed is different, and but people are happy because people are getting money, people are getting employment out of that. And of course, like, PDS is also something that people are happy about it, people are getting it. But the question here is, what type of rice, what type of PDS, what type of food comes through PDS? Is it good for our health? If you look at, people are giving it to the feed as a feed to the pigs and chickens. So I think the whole question mark is, if the PDS is reaching the people, well and good, but is it a healthy food, should be the question mark. And I think these are some of the big question marks of the distribution system of our country.
Okay, another very important question with regard to the concept that you have brought out in your presentation. Someone wants to know, or someone wants you to elaborate a little bit on the concept of this feminization of agriculture, please.
Yeah, feminization of agriculture is not only in my place, but it is also an emerging issue across the globe, because it is the women who are at home, who are tending the, looking after the home, and also they are the ones who are tending the fields, they are tilling the fields, because men have either left their villages, they have migrated out, or they have gone for some construction work, whether it is a road construction or when it is house construction. Men are moving out of farming activity. So here the women are left alone to then till the land, and it is more and more women who are taking care of the land, the farmland, and the men are going out for other daily wage or some construction work or some work, whether it is in their own villages or whether it is migrating outside to the urban areas. The same is with the young people. Earlier, during like our grandparents' time, the children are with the parents, and they cultivate, they do farming together. But now, with the education that has come in, the young people move out. There is labor deficit that is not only in Nagaland or in Northeast, but also the rest of the world. there is labor deficit wherever people are doing, agroecology using, like the methods between the big machines, there is labor deficit. And this is one issue. And here women are left. And so I have used feminization of agriculture. Maybe some people may differ to my comment, but that is what I have seen in my own community, that women are tending the farm lands and men have moved out to construction work. A lot of them have moved out. And if at all, like, men are there in the field along with their wives, it is the elderly men who are still in the farming and not the younger men. So that's why I have used this feminization of agriculture.
Okay, thank you, Seno. One last question, okay, to you from, let me just go back again here. It has moved. From Manoj Kumar, and that is, what about the Social Security Officer and a Social Security Minister in every state? What about the Social Security Officer, Social Security Minister in every state, okay, where there's Social Security bill which ensures food to poor? Why not church make a program in harmony with the government ministry to help give food to the poor at the time of need? That is the question. Your response to that.
Why not the church? I think that is a question that we need to ask ourselves. When I was this February, I was in Dimapur. I came down to Dimapur and there was a road blockade for weeks together. And I've seen stranded buses which are before reaching that rock slide area and also after the rock slide area. And I was looking at the passengers helplessly stranded there for 2-3 days. And I was wondering whether we as church have come forward to offer food or not, to give shelter or not. That was the question that I have in my mind. And I'm sure that everybody also felt that way. I've seen in the social media also somehow, like raising that kind of question. I think, it is important for the government to collaborate with different stakeholders. And if it is a place like Nagaland, Mizoram, Meghalaya, church can be one of the best stakeholders to collaborate with government to deliver services better. And there is no second doubt on this, because it is the church which can play a very important role in helping the government deliver the services. Of course, what the government needs to do has to do by the government, but what as a civil society organization or as a church or religious institution, what can we do? We can always be the best partners or collaborators in delivering services to humanity. And that's very much part of within the principles of Christianity or other faiths, helping the poor. So I'm sure that the church and the government can play a very meaningful collaborations in delivering services and social security to the people.
Okay, thank you, Seno, for those very efficient responses to the queries. Now, finally, we will give the final questions to Dr. Yiepetso, and they are combined. Okay, I want to combine these two questions, and then I want you to respond to them. The question is about what is the unique role of Christians, and then what kind of action will make practical-oriented theology Christian? That is the question. And another question is, why is it always the poor who get affected badly in every crisis situation? And then response is expected from the biblical perspective. Thank you, Dr. Yiepetso.
Thank you so much. A very difficult question. It is not easy to give that response. But unless we give some practical guidance and practically help people, it is if we just talk and develop theoretical theology and not given practical guidance, for me it is not very helpful now as I enter into different ministry again. So it will be, I don't know how to do it, but it will be very helpful if you can give some practical guidance to the people and give practical education to the people. So that we practically learn. For example, like Seno talking about food security, going to the land, tilling the land, is a practical theology to me. Jesus is very much aware of agriculture, and he talks so much about agriculture. And so if we also go to that kind of things and then give our theological education by showing some of the examples, I think that will help the people. That is what I'm thinking, and that is what I mean practical theology. Practically showing people the way. Or life skill training, for example, life skill training. And if we're not only teaching the what is church or what is God like that, but if we also teach them the livelihood, how to earn the livelihood, then I think that is also a practical theology to me. Because Jesus was doing like that, he was feeding the 5,000 people, and then he was also showing us a good example of the Good Samaritan. So from all those things, we can develop our practical theology to help the needy people. The second question is about why the poor people are always affected. Is that the question?
Yes, why is it always the poor who get affected badly in every crisis situation, you know, in every calamities? They are the worst hit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
Because they do not have anything. They are poor. They are already in poverty. They do not have money. They do not have wealth. They do not have their own houses. So when this calamity comes, they are always affected because they do not have things to sustain themselves. Maybe I'll just end there. I think
Okay.
the one who asked question will know better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Yiepetso.
Thank you.
I think we have come to the close of our session. We have taken almost all the questions. Some of the comments are there, but there are comments, you know, like supplementation and views and thoughts put up there. Thank you so much for your participation, everybody. And I think this should do the question. Or Dr. Wati, what do you say?
No, if we have no further comment, we can wind up, no problem.
Okay, if there's anyone who wish so much to say something, you know, ask something burning question, then maybe I'll give time to one person or two, please.
But I see one question by Steve Varro.
Okay, Dr. Razu also
Yes, sir.
wants to say
Yes, sir.
something.
Yeah.
Steve Varro, where is it? I have to check. Sir, maybe you can help. Okay, yes.
I think it is addressed to Yiepetso.
Okay, can't agree more than that maybe. The larger question that led to his observation analysis, are we, is that it, sir?
It is also raised question by Harder, you know.
Yes,
This
sir.
is a comment, I think.
Yeah. Are we as the
That's also a
church or
question, sir.
institution and civil society afraid, not equipped, not interested to address the issues of injustice, corruption in our society? Is that the one you're referring to?
Last one, Dr. Wezah, recognizing the urgent need of youth in the states in country.
Okay,
Government,
okay, yes, got it. Dr. Yiepetso, do you see that?
Yeah, yeah. What is that?
The last one. Recognizing, can you hear me? Let me read it out to you.
Yeah, please.
recognizing the urgent need of the youths in the states and country, Government of India seems to have initiated life skills training across the country in a massive way. The question is why and how we as a church can collaborate or partner with government which is meant for the unemployed youth when our church youth are jobless. That is the question, please.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That training was also carried out here in Nagaland, but they went to a few schools like Don Bosco School here in Dimapur, and another school is there, and so they gave some kind of talk to the class 12 students, sometimes in February. But they also did not actually invite the youth, the unemployed youth, to come and participate. I think the government just carried out only namesake. They did not really do it properly. And so it was done in 2 schools in Dimapur. I have heard about that, and I have seen the newspaper also. But they did not address to the actually unemployed youth. If, as you said, if they can engage with the church and work together with the church like NBCC or any other Christian forum, Nagaland Christian Forum, then Nagaland Christian Forum can invite the unemployed youth, and then training can be given to the youth that will benefit our youth more. But what the government did this time was just namesake, and it was not really appreciated. That is my view. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
From Dr. Razu now.
You are muted, I think. Dr. Razo, you are muted, I think.
Dr. Razu, can you hear me? We cannot hear you. I think, something wrong with his.
Tell him
No.
to put in the chat.
Razo is.
About chat, sir.
He is speaking, but we cannot hear.
That's why put him in the chat.
Yeah.
Ask him to put in the chat.
I think his connection is not good.
Yeah, I've sent him a message. Let's see. Okay, anyone one last, the real last one before Dr. Razu.
Razu, you are muted, but I think he keep up. He show his hand like this. Maybe.
So then, anyone last, final. Okay, if not, something? No. Okay, then thank you so much. The speakers, I want to thank the speakers especially for your very powerful contribution, talks that you have brought to us, which were seriously needed, urgently felt today in our context. God continue to bless you and your ministry, your contribution to the society, to the church, and to the world at large. Want to also say thank you, a very big thank you to all the participants. Very sorry if your questions have not been taken up, but we tried our best, to take up as much as possible, but time will not permit. We will, we will have lots of questions and comments and arguments, thoughts, views, but time does not permit us to prolong further than this. So I just want to say on behalf of myself, on behalf of the speakers, and on behalf of the organizers, a very big thank you to all the active participants for your comments, for your contribution, for your, thoughts and everything. And now I will hand over the time to Dr. Wati if he has anything to say before we close with a word of prayer.
Thank you so much, lovely Seno and then Wezah, for leading us this evening webinar seminar. You have really challenged us to think, and I'm sure your presentation has evoked our minds, our hearts, and then I'm also thinking why I have studied theology. I should have become a farmer, So I'm regretting now. Anyway, thank you so much for the new insights that you have brought us tonight. We will have a second webinar seminar, the last module, that is COVID-19 and vulnerable communities, next month. So I'm sure all of you will join and contribute in the discussion. Thank you once again.
Okay, thank you, sir. And now let us close our webinar with a word of prayer. Let me say a word of prayer. Loving and merciful God, once again, we want to say thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts for your blessings, for your protection, for your guidance throughout our meeting, throughout our discussion and deliberations, Lord. Thank you for using your servants, Lord, Ms. Seno and Dr. Yiepetso, for your noble purpose. And thank you so much for the encouraging, challenging, and provoking thoughts and then concepts that have come to us. And as we have received them, Lord, so well, Lord, let the thoughts, let the challenges that we have received not die within us, but Lord, help us to translate them into actions in our own lives, Lord, in the life of ourselves as individuals and in our family lives and in our social community life, Lord. Help us to be instrumental, Lord, in bringing change and transformation in our society for your people, especially for the poor and the needy and the suffering. We thank you for blessing us so much. We pray that you'll continue to bless us and watch over us. Bless especially upon the speakers, the two speakers who have labored so much and then who have benefited us so much. Bless them, Lord. Bless their lives, their family, and their ministry. And disperse us with your blessings, because we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Have a good night,
Amen.
everyone.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Good night.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye.
You know,
Bye-bye.
lovely.